before tomorrow arrives, there is something you need to hear. Because while you've been worrying about what could go wrong, God has been preparing something you cannot see yet. Lately, your mind has been racing ahead of you, thinking about the future, replaying worst-case scenarios, wondering if tomorrow will bring more stress, more uncertainty, or more disappointment. You've carried questions nobody else can answer. Questions about your finances, your family, your purpose, your next step. But what if tomorrow is not the threat you've imagined? What if the day you've been fearing is actually the day everything begins to change? Tonight, God wants you to stop looking at tomorrow through the lens of fear, because a turning point is closer than you realize. And before the next chapter begins, there is something He needs you to understand. Maybe the hardest part isn't what is happening in your life right now. Maybe the hardest part is not knowing what happens next. You can handle challenges. You've done that before. You can survive difficult seasons. You've proven that more times than you can count. But uncertainty, that is what keeps you awake at night. That is what follows you into quiet moments. That is what makes your mind race when the room finally goes silent. Lately, you've been carrying questions that seem to have no answers. Questions about where your life is headed. Questions about whether you're making the right decisions. Questions about opportunities that haven't appeared yet, and doors that haven't opened. Some nights you lie awake staring into the darkness, trying to predict a future that hasn't arrived. You replay conversations, you rethink choices, you imagine every possible outcome, not because you want to, but because anxiety convinces you that if you think long enough, you can somehow control what comes next. Yet no matter how much you think, the uncertainty remains, and that uncertainty is exhausting. It's exhausting to carry responsibilities while secretly wondering if everything will work out. It's exhausting to smile in front of people while battling fear in private. It's exhausting to act confident when part of you feels unsure about what tomorrow might bring. Maybe nobody knows how much pressure you've been carrying. Maybe nobody sees the invisible weight resting on your shoulders. The pressure to make the right choice. The pressure to avoid mistakes. The pressure to figure everything out before the future arrives. And slowly, without realizing it, you've started treating tomorrow like an enemy. Something to fear. Something to worry about. Something that might take more from you than it gives. But here's what you've been missing. The future isn't frightening because of what you know. It's frightening because of what you don't know. And when fear fills in the blanks, it usually paints a picture far worse than reality. God sees every anxious thought, every sleepless night, every silent prayer, every moment you've wished someone could simply tell you that everything will be okay. And tonight, before tomorrow arrives, He wants you to know something important. The future you've been worrying about is not the future He sees. And that realization is about to change everything. And that is why God brought you here tonight. Not to give you every detail about tomorrow. Not to answer every question that has been troubling your mind. But to remind you that you do not have to face the future alone. For a long time, anxiety has been making you feel as though everything depends on you, as though you must carry every burden. solve every problem, predict every outcome, and prepare for every possibility. But God never asked you to carry that weight by yourself. He never asked you to control what only He can see. He never expected you to have all the answers, yet somehow you've been trying. You've been carrying tomorrow before tomorrow even arrives. You've been fighting battles that haven't happened, worrying about conversations that haven't taken place, preparing for disappointments that may never come, and all the while, God has been standing beside you, asking you to release what was never yours to carry. Because His presence is not limited by your circumstances. His peace is not limited by uncertainty, and His guidance is not limited by what you cannot see. Even during the moments when you felt alone, He was there. He was there during the nights when anxiety kept you awake. He was there when fear whispered worst-case scenarios into your mind. He was there when you felt overwhelmed by responsibilities and exhausted by uncertainty. Not once did He leave. Not once did He abandon your story. Not once did He stop working on your behalf. The silence you experienced was never His absence. The waiting was never proof that He had forgotten you, and the uncertainty of tomorrow does not mean He has lost control. In fact, God is already present in the tomorrow you're worried about. Before you wake up, before the next conversation happens, before the next opportunity appears, before the next chapter begins, He is already there. Seeing what you cannot see, preparing what you cannot prepare, arranging what you cannot arrange. And that changes everything. Because if God is already in your tomorrow, then you don't have to fear it. You don't have to understand every step to trust the one guiding them. You don't have to know every answer to believe that He does. So, tonight, take a deep breath, release the burden of trying to control the future. Because before tomorrow changes your circumstances, God wants to change your perspective. And there is a reason the enemy has worked so hard to keep you of what comes next. The battle you're facing is not only about the future, it's about fear. Because fear has a way of making tomorrow look bigger than God. It magnifies uncertainty. It exaggerates problems. It convinces you that what could go wrong deserves more attention than what could go right. And if fear cannot stop your progress, it will try to steal your peace. Think about how much time anxiety has already taken from you. Hours spent worrying, nights spent overthinking, moments that should have been peaceful, but were consumed by questions about the future. Fear keeps your body in today while trapping your mind in tomorrow. It pulls you away from the present moment and places you inside imaginary situations that may never happen. And the more you listen to it, the more convincing it becomes. Suddenly, every delay feels like a warning. Every obstacle feels permanent. Every unanswered question feels like proof that something bad is coming. But fear rarely tells the truth. It tells stories. Stories built on assumptions. Stories built on uncertainty. Stories built on possibilities rather than reality. And for too long, you've been listening to those stories. You've allowed anxiety to convince you that because you cannot see the future must be dangerous. Because you don't have all the answers, something must be wrong. Because the path isn't clear, disaster must be waiting ahead. But what if the opposite is true? What if the reason fear has been attacking your mind so intensely is because something important is approaching. What if your anxiety has been trying to distract you from the fact that God is preparing a turning point? Because often, right before a breakthrough, confusion increases. Right before clarity arrives, doubt grows louder. Right before a door opens, fear tries to convince you not to walk toward it. The enemy wants you focused on worst-case scenarios. God wants you focused on his faithfulness. The enemy wants you exhausted by worry. God wants you strengthened by trust. The enemy wants you expecting disappointment. God wants you expecting possibility. And tonight, you are standing between those two voices. One voice says nothing will change. The other says everything can change in a moment. One voice says, be afraid of tomorrow. The other says, be ready for tomorrow. Because what is coming next is not something you need to fear. It is something you need to prepare your heart to receive. And that preparation begins the moment you stop seeing tomorrow as a threat and start seeing it as an opportunity for God to move. And this is where the shift begins. Not in your circumstances, not in your bank account, not in the situation you've been worrying about. The shift begins in your mind, because the moment you stop expecting disaster and start expecting God's guidance, everything starts to look different. The future no longer feels like a dark hallway. It becomes a doorway. A doorway filled with possibilities you cannot see yet. For so long, you've been asking, what if things go wrong? But tonight, God is inviting you to ask a different question. What if things go right? What if tomorrow carries an opportunity you've been praying for? What if a conversation changes everything? What if the answer you've been waiting on is already closer than you realize? You don't know exactly what tomorrow holds, but neither does your fear. That's what you've been forgetting. Fear has been acting like it knows the future. It doesn't. Only God does. And the God who carried you through every difficult season before this one is still carrying you now. That means tomorrow is not arriving by accident. It is arriving under his watch, under his care, under his authority, and suddenly the future doesn't seem quite so frightening, because you begin to realize that uncertainty is not always a threat. Sometimes it's an invitation to trust, an invitation to grow, an invitation to witness God move in ways you never expected. And here's what you've been missing. The turning point you've been praying for may not begin with a dramatic miracle. It may begin with a simple moment, a decision, a phone call, an opportunity, a realization, something small that eventually changes everything. That is often how God works, quietly at first, then unmistakably. So tonight, don't prepare your heart for disaster. Prepare your heart for possibility, because tomorrow may become the beginning of a chapter you've been unable to imagine. And before that chapter fully unfolds, God wants to remind you of who you are in His eyes. Before you step into a new chapter, you must remember something anxiety has been trying to make you forget. You are not defined by your fears. You are not defined by your doubts. And you are certainly not defined by the worst-case scenarios that have been playing inside your mind. For too long, you've been measuring yourself by what you haven't accomplished yet, by the doors that didn't open, by the opportunities that didn't work out, by the mistakes you wish you could undo. But God does not see you through the lens of your disappointments. He sees you through the lens of your purpose. He sees the strength you developed through every challenge, the resilience you built through every setback, the wisdom you gained through every difficult season. Even when you felt like you were falling behind, God was still shaping you. Even when you felt forgotten, He was still working within you. Even when you questioned your future, He never questioned your value. That is what you need to understand tonight. Your worth has never depended on your circumstances. It has never depended on your success. It has never depended on how confident or prepared you feel. You are valuable because God says you are. You are loved even on the days when you don't feel lovable. You are chosen even when life makes you feel overlooked. You are seen even when the world seems too busy to notice. And perhaps the greatest lie anxiety ever tells is that you are not ready for what's ahead. But if God has brought you this far, why would He abandon you now? If He has carried you through every previous chapter, why would He stop before the next one begins? The truth is, you are stronger than you think, more capable than you realize, more prepared than you feel. Because God has been using this season to build something inside you that fear could never destroy. So stop looking at yourself through the eyes of anxiety. Stop judging your future by your current emotions. Lift your eyes higher. You are not a victim of uncertainty. You are a person with purpose, a person with value, a person whose story is still unfolding. And when you finally begin to see yourself the way God sees you, you'll be ready to receive what He has prepared for tomorrow. Now imagine waking up tomorrow with a different perspective. Not because every problem has disappeared, but because fear no longer has control over your heart. Imagine stepping into the day expecting God to move instead of expecting things to fall apart. Imagine noticing opportunities where you once saw obstacles, peace where you once felt panic, hope where you once felt uncertainty. Because tomorrow may hold more than you realize. A new opportunity, an unexpected answer, a conversation that changes your direction, a door you've been waiting to see open. The turning point may not look dramatic at first. In fact, it may begin as something small. But small moments often become life-changing moments. That's why tonight is not about fearing tomorrow. It's about preparing for it. Preparing your heart to recognize God's hand when He moves. Because the day you've been worrying about may become the day you look back on and say, that was the day everything started to change. So tonight, let go of the fear you've been carrying. Release the need to have every answer before tomorrow arrives. God is already there. He is already making a way where you cannot yet see one. May His peace quiet every anxious thought. May His strength replace your uncertainty. May His presence remind you that you never walk alone. And as you step into tomorrow, may you do so with confidence, hope, and expectation. Because the day you have been worrying about may become the day God begins changing everything. Rest tonight. Trust Him. Your next chapter is closer than you think.